Hey, everybody. Welcome to True Crime Paranormal with this psychic sister. I'm Christy Brower, and I am here with a true crime pop up for you tonight. I like to do these for you on Saturday nights, and today, well, it kind of made itself for me pretty easy today because today, Rodney Alcala, or you may remember him as the dating game killer, died of natural causes in prison. He has been awaiting the death penalty for quite a while now, but I thought since he passed away today that it would be worth talking about him a little bit. I hadn't thought of him or this case in a really long time. So if you don't know who he is, he's Rodney James Alcala. And he is an American serial killer and rapist. He was finally sentenced to death in California for 5 murders that happened somewhere between 1977 and 1979. But this was after his 3rd trial. I didn't remember this part of the story. I remembered the dating game part, but I think that's probably the part that everyone remembers. But here's the thing about Rodney Alcala. He managed to get exonerated for murder twice, for the same murder that he was finally convicted of, along with several other murders. He died. He died today. Hey, everybody in the chat. Jari, Patsy, Stephanie, nice to have you all here. So he was on the dating game in 1978. This was midst murder spree, I want you to know. Creepy. Also, he was already a convicted sex offender at the time that he was on the dating game. So, dating game, shame on you. You know, people like, yeah, that's the guy that was on the Mystery Date show. Yes. And you know what happened? He won that show. And then the woman on the show that was supposed to go on the date with him wouldn't go. Said he was too creepy. She was not interested. But it was right in the middle of his spree, and he was a convicted sex offender, and they let him be on that show. Yikes. Why do they let death row folks just sit? I don't get it, right? I know it's, there are so many appeals and opportunities, and I get it because we don't want the state to murder people who are innocent, right? This guy, come on, he was tried 3 times. We're pretty sure he was definitely not innocent, although he swore he was. He never admitted to his crimes. So let me tell you a little bit about his trials because this is pretty interesting. So like I said, he was on the dating game. So then he finally went to trial for the murder of Robin Samso, who was 12 years old. She was from Huntington Beach. She disappeared somewhere between the beach and her ballet class on June 20th of 1979. And her body was found 12 days later in the Los Angeles foothills. A lot of his victims were found in California, although that was not the only state. So we'll get to that in a minute. So apparently there was a witness to a strange man walking up to Samso and her friends on the beach asking to take their pictures. And this was his thing. Rodney liked to take pictures of children, and he liked to take pictures of children naked in sexual poses because he was a real trash human. So her friends, she went missing, Robin did, but her friends, were able to give a sketch of Rodney Alcala, and his parole officer recognized him, and they actually found in his belongings a set of earrings that belonged to Robin Samso. So he was arrested in July of 1979, and he was held without bail. So in 1980, he was tried, convicted, and sentenced to death. Seemed like piece of cake. He's going away, right? But his conviction was overturned by the California Supreme Court because jurors had been improperly informed of his prior sex crimes. This is a problem that we run into. It still happens now. How do we handle prior bad acts of someone, and can it influence a jury negatively? So, anyway, case thrown out, right? So let's see, this is just crazy. So in 1986, they try him again. Identical trial, except they leave out the stuff about his prior sex crimes. And again, he's convicted and sentenced to death for Robin Samso's murder. And this one just, I don't know, you guys. Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals nullified his second conviction because a witness was not allowed to support his claim that the park ranger who found Robin Samso's body had been hypnotized by police investigators. You guys, how weird is that? Right? How weird is that? That was his whole defense. But Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals basically said he was not allowed to put up his defense because he wasn't allowed to explore that. So again, conviction thrown out. And I can only imagine what it must have been like to be the prosecutor in this case, who just wants to put this scumbag behind bars forever, right? So in 2003, in Orange County, California, investigators are working on a third trial when, wouldn't you know it, Alcala's DNA matches to DNA left at the rape and murder scenes of two women in Los Angeles. And then some more women show up in New York and also in LA. So we have Jill Barcombe, who was, I forget. These are all the ones in California. So she was found in a Los Angeles ravine in 1977. They actually thought she was a victim of the Hillside Strangler. He was, by the way, questioned in the Hillside Strangler case. There was also Georgia Wickstead. She was found in her apartment in 1977. Charlotte Lamb, who was found in the laundry room of an apartment complex. And Jill Parenteau, who was killed in her apartment in 1979. All of the bodies were found in poses, like intentional positions. Again, we have this weird fascination with photographing bodies, right? So he was still, because he was held without bail, don't forget. So he's been in prison the whole time. He wasn't let out when these cases were thrown out. But while he was incarcerated between his second and third trial, he wrote a book, and the book is called You, the Jury. And he claims innocence in the Robin Samso case, and he suggests a different suspect in that case. He also files 2 lawsuits at the time against the California penal system, once for a slip and fall incident of his, I guess, and the other for refusing to provide him a low-fat diet. This dude's a psychopath, okay? And this is what he's worried about while he's waiting for trial. So in 2003, prosecutors enter a motion because they want to join Robin Samso's case with these 4 other California cases and charge him for all of them at the same time. And of course, his attorneys didn't want to do that because they thought it would leave reasonable doubt on it would, affect reasonable doubt on the Robin Samso case because they have DNA on the other cases, which, okay, I mean, he clearly did them, The California Supreme Court finally did rule in the prosecution's favor this time around. And in February of 2010, you guys, this is the bizarre thing. This dude has been in prison since 1979. Finally, in February of 2010, he stands trial for all 5 of these cases. In this third trial, he acted as his own attorney. And when it was time to interrogate himself, he did take the stand and role-played interrogator and witness, and he actually changed the tone of his voice and called himself Mr. Alcala when he was interrogating himself. So, not weird at all, right? Like, that's not crazy in the least. That's not creepy at all. Didn't he have a lot of unidentified photos? Yes, I'm going to get to that. The photos, yikes. We will talk about that in a minute. Right, he wasn't out killing more women, right? Through all of this, he was still held because, I mean, they knew he did it. It's ridiculous. Cops now don't believe hypnosis works. I can only imagine what they thought in the 80s. Right, I know. That was really, I mean, this dude, his luck with the courts is kind of terrifying. Yeah, kind of terrifying. So after, interrogating himself and telling all kinds of weird lies and showing the jury a portion of himself on the dating game, he was trying to prove that the earrings that belonged to Robin Samso were actually his, and he was wearing them in this video. He wasn't, though. He wasn't wearing any earrings in the video. This dude, okay? So he didn't really try to defend himself on the other murders. He just really focused on the Robin Samso murder. As part of his closing argument, he did play an Arlo Guthrie song called, I'm sure you all know it, Alice's Restaurant. And in it, the protagonist tells a psychiatrist that he wants to kill. Probably not the best plan as your own defense attorney. So, the jury did convict him on all 5 counts of first-degree murder. And that wasn't a big surprise, right? So he was sentenced to death for the 3rd time. He's been given many psychiatric diagnoses, including antisocial personality disorder, malignant narcissist, borderline personality disorder. What it all boils down to is he's a psychopath. He is most definitely a psychopath. There's really no way of knowing how many victims he had because that was trying to look nuts. Probably it was in the defending of himself. Didn't really work, though. DNA doesn't lie. So in going through his stuff when he was arrested, they found about 1,000 pictures of young boys and girls, all naked in provocative poses. They have attempted to identify the people in those photographs, and they have actually found a couple more victims, but they really think that there are probably many more that maybe no one was looking for. But they did make as many of the photos available as they could, but some of them were really sexually explicit, and so they couldn't put them all out because they'd basically be child pornography. About 21 women have come forward to identify themselves in the pictures. And there are about 6 families who say that they believe they recognize someone in a picture who disappeared years ago and was never found. So could those be more victims? Yes, probably. In 2013, a family member recognized Christine Thornton, whose body was found in Wyoming in 1982. This is the thing that's bizarre, you guys. He was all over the country. These pictures are still posted online, by the way. If you search for them, you can find them. But after his 2010 conviction, New York authorities announced that they would no longer go after him, even though they did have some cases that they did believe that he was the murderer. In Cornelia Crilly, who was a flight attendant, Ellen Hover, the Syros heiress. I don't know what that is. In June 2012, he was extradited to New York, where he did enter a not guilty plea on those counts. He did eventually plead guilty. And basically they just said, they've added 25 years to life to his conviction. Obviously, he didn't really need it because he didn't even make it to death penalty. In 2010, Seattle police named him as a person of interest in the unsolved murders of Antoinette Whitaker, Joyce Gaunt. He did have a storage unit in Seattle. That's where they found some belongings of two of his victims from California. And so, there have been other cases that were looked at potentially in California, New York, New Hampshire, and Arizona. So we don't really know how many people he killed. He is convicted of 7, probably many more than that. But, at least the California legal system does not have to continue paying for him because he did die of natural causes in prison today. Yes, it is heartbreaking. And I cannot imagine for the prosecutors in California how very frustrating this case must have been. They really stuck in there with him. They really believed that he commit this crime, they tried him 3 times. It took them from 1980 to 2013. Have I got that right? Let me double check. I just want to be sure I have this right because it's such a tremendously ridiculous long time that it took to finally convict him. Yeah, in 2010 is when he finally went to trial the 3rd time. Okay, so from 1983 to 2010, so 17 years in which he was being held without bond, thank heavens, or he just would have been out there killing people. It took him that long to be able to convict him. Right? They shouldn't have let him live this long, right? If he probably maybe wouldn't have had his first conviction stood. I don't know. Brooke says, sorry, I'm not a good or forgiving person when kids are hurt. No, I totally hear you on that. It is very frustrating to me as well, but I do really appreciate the authorities in California that they stuck with this guy in spite of the fact that they got shot down twice. I mean, to see a first-degree murder case thrown out twice and to see them go for him a 3rd time, I mean, that's pretty good. So, what a creep. You're right. You're absolutely right. He was a creep, and he's gone from this world as of today. So, kind of interesting to revisit that story. There are way more details to it. I didn't want to get all the way into it. But I did want to share that with you because it is an interesting, way to think about things, that how long he has been in the system. And now today, California doesn't have to pay for him anymore. And no one is ever going to be at risk of him again, which also makes me happy. JR, I hope he's in hell. Right? I don't know where people like that go, but I hope it's somewhere not good. Yeah. I hope he certainly pays for those crimes. Well, at least one way to look at it is one less serial killer on the planet, right? We're never going to be done with them, I think, but this one's done, and we can say thanks to California for hanging in there. Well, this has been a true crime pop-up. I am Christy Brower, and you know it. You are listening to True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters, and we will be back on Monday with brand new cases and brand new updates and all the good stuff. So please hang in there with us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. It helps us, you know it does, and we're always working to grow. So if you would like to recommend a case to us, if you'd like us to cover something, you can do that by going to truecrimeparanormalpodcast.com, and there's a form to fill out there, and we will consider whatever case you send our way, see if it's something we'd like to cover. So thanks for being here with me tonight, you guys. Have a great night.